All righty. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Zach Posner. I am the co-founder and managing partner at the LegalTech Fund. This is our third LinkedIn Live, and we are honored to have Kathy with us today from Streamline. And I think Kathy was supposed to be the first one.
That's right.
We screwed this up because we were all running around clock in Las Vegas. So this is a redo. And the good news is that, Kathy, we had a lot of technical learnings that we learned from the first and the second one. So I feel like, now you get to be the beneficiary of all that stuff. But thank you for joining.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like the lucky one. Thank you so much for having me, Zach, and for the LegalTech Fund to be hosting us. Yeah.
We're the lucky ones. But I guess before we jump into learning a little bit more about Streamline, we've started all of these with what's a fun fact that not many people know about you.
So what I tend to share about this is that I've lived on 4 continents before the age of 15, which is a little unusual. So I was born in Shanghai, China, and then my family moved to Australia when I was 6. And then we moved to the UK, and I lived there for like almost 9 years. And then I moved to the US. So I skipped around all over the world. And I think it's made a really, really big impact on, the way that I relate to other people and just how adaptable I am to new experiences.
That's pretty impressive. 4 before 15. If you weren't working in legal tech, what vertical do you think you'd be in with all that experience traveling?
So I honestly, Zach, if I didn't have to worry about income at all, I would be an artist. Okay. I love creating things. I love working with my hands. During the pandemic, I actually did a lot of painting and writing. So I'm really lucky because I get to channel a lot of that creativity into Streamline. But I'd ask this back to you. Like if you weren't working in this industry, and you also didn't have to worry about income, what would you do?
I don't know if the income would be such a barometer, but if I wasn't working in this industry, I would. I started my career. My first startup was in K-12 education. I'd probably be doing something there. Like for me, it's pretty awesome when you can like help people in your day job. And I actually look at, ironically, most people don't think of legal tech like this, but I look at it as every single investment that we've made, including yours, we're just helping to make legal services more accessible to everybody. Like all that your technology is doing is, bringing down the cost of like, if it's making something work more efficiently, if it's having attorneys do something and letting automation help them, and in K-12, you feel it a lot more directly, some of the impact, because you're literally working with, helping kids improve educational outcomes. But I think this is the same thing. We have a crazy stat that I think, average attorney rate in this country is $364 an hour. Median wage is $19 an hour. So nobody can afford an attorney. And all this technology is doing is just helping to bring that rate down a little bit. Whether it's directly or indirectly. So probably education. I guess on that note, you talked about art. If you weren't what's an activity outside that you can't live without?
Oh, hands down, no question. It's absolutely meditation. It's how I start and end every day. I can actually count the number of days I've missed on one hand in the past 7 years. That is how, I honestly could not live without it. Yeah.
How did that start? Like, what got you into it, or what compelled you to give it a shot?
Honestly, stress. Just there's so much going on all the time, especially, I was, a commercial attorney at Medallia, which is a B2B SaaS company, especially at end of quarters. It would just get really, really crazy. And I was looking for a way to actually just recalibrate and give me a more balanced outlook on life, so you're not as kind of just affected, right, by all the bumps and turbulences of daily living. It's like it actually evens you out. And it's had magical side effects. I could spend all hour talking about it, but that's for another.
It's funny. Every time I talk to you, and I think people can see it right now, you seem like radiant and excited and not stressed. And I know it's not easy being a founder and a CEO of an early stage company. All right. I guess thank you for all of that. On the work, maybe quick context for folks that are listening. Like, what does Streamline do? Why did you start it? What are you excited about?
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
basic overview would be awesome.
Sure, sure. So I already mentioned that I was an attorney. I actually spent over a decade practicing law before launching Streamline. The majority of that time was spent in-house. And, one of the just primary experiences I had throughout my career at Medallia and then later at DoorDash, I actually built the commercial legal function there from the ground up, is just the chaos of managing everything coming in the door, right? I mean, I talk about this a lot. Like 7 years ago and longer, there are only two ways you would contact a lawyer. You'd send them an email, or maybe you would just walk up to their desk, right? And tell them what it is you needed. But now, if you look across the enterprise tech stack, every single function has a different tool that they like to use. And so legal teams are getting pinged over Slack, Jira, Asana, Salesforce, email. I mean, it's impossible, right, to keep track of everything. And the manual effort, Zach, like what we're finding with our customers is about 50% of their time spending actually processing a request is complete waste, right? They're not actually working on it substantively. They're just tracking what's happening.
Yeah. And then I feel like even anybody can relate to this. Like we keep getting more and more platforms. We keep getting pinged by more and more folks in different ways. And how do you organize all this,
Right.
all this stuff? When did you start Streamline? And was there like how is all the advances in technology playing into kind of what you're doing besides there just being more?
Sure. So we started in 2020. And back then I had a very, very clear vision for the basic components of an effective intake system for legal. And it wasn't just about the front door. It also needed workflow automation, which we've built with no code. It's logic based. So anybody in legal can use it to build their own workflows. That was an innovation, because before that, most technology platforms required heavy IT involvement, right, to modify anything. So that was the second. And then the third, you had to have reporting as well. Now in 2020, even though we from the start we had the domain name Streamline AI, I also had a very clear sense of we need to bring a solution to market that works independently of AI.
Yeah.
And then when the AI boom really started to take off, we've been layering that technology on top of the base platform, right? And so it actually helps everything to work even better and faster. But it's by design, actually, that you've got something that works really, really effectively. And then the AI can actually be turned on or off depending on what the customer wants.
Where does this go? We put out a generative AI map yesterday. We did one about you guys were on both of them, but we did one about October, so that's about 8 months ago.
Sure.
I think we had like 70 or 80 companies on it. We did one yesterday. We had 324 companies. So we've seen a lot of folks using this stuff. But I'm curious, like, or maybe if you can look out a little bit, like what does the long-term vision look like, for Streamline? Like where does this go? You're obviously, there's some basic workflow stuff that's extraordinarily important. And my guess is when you start by owning that workflow, you can help people in lots of different ways.
Right.
But I'm curious, like how you think about the longer term vision.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I mentioned the three kind of core aspects of Streamline. And what we're finding with how customers are using it is that we need to bring them an even richer experience than just the workflow automation. We actually need to provide a workspace for them really to be there and to do their work. So if you look at our latest AI product, which is called Streamline Smart Parse, what that's actually doing is it's automatically it's using AI to really read all the documents that are uploaded and then map that against a company's playbook. So if you have a negotiation playbook, let's just say, for example, a DPA or an MSA, our Smart Parse product can use traffic lights to automatically highlight in red, yellow, green what's in your strike zone, what's an acceptable fallback, and what's outside. And that would have been a dream for me as a commercial counsel, right? I mean, I would spend hours pouring through a third-party red line, especially if it's complicated, just to get a ballpark sense. Now we can deliver that in a matter of seconds. So I think, Zach, like, to answer the question, you have to really think about what is the problem that you're trying to solve, and not just, hey, I want to just come out with the next cool AI thing because everybody else is launching all of these different AI products. We always start with what is the pain that we're solving.
And I have to imagine that's like spectacular. like a spectacular experience for your users where you just added something that made your product like better. Like they just woke up and then, hey, you guys reached out to them and said, hey, we have this new functionality. Would you like to think about it? Would you like to? Yeah, that's like pretty awesome when you can like continuously innovate like that. And the pace of change seems like it's like picking up significantly. You guys continuously are adding new customers. Like, what are you excited about for the rest of this year, for next year?
Yeah, so we have a lot of exciting AI features planned. And in fact, our roadmap is so big. We're always thinking like we have to be realistic. We want to do so much and accomplish so much. A lot of the longer term vision is going to be paying down what I just described with that workspace approach. So there'll be more features to address different aspects of what a in-house legal department needs. For the rest of this year, we're also going to come out with an AI chatbot, which will actually enable legal departments to provide a self-serve experience for business teams. Something that I hated throughout my time practicing is just how repetitive the requests would be, because as a company onboards new employees, the first team they reach out to is always legal. Like, hey, legal, how do I exercise my options? Hey, legal, what are the benefits? Like, if I want to take maternity leave. And so you're constantly just wasting time answering the same questions. Well, now we don't have to, right? We can actually leverage AI to do that, as long as we can, upload a policy into that system. So lots of different features that, essentially will make delivering legal services more efficient and enable lawyers to spend time where it really matters.
Yeah, no, and look, we think about this. We think about three different. We think about software that sells into like three different customer types, and one is law firms, second is corporate, and then the third is consumer and SMB. But on the corporate side, like the story that I talk about is software like yours legal tech, or is it like sales enablement? And I know that sounds like a crazy construct, but the more power that you can push down to the end users of the legal department, the quicker that they get what they need, the more that they can, if it's sales folks, the more that they can generate sales.
1,000%. So I always say that this isn't just solving a legal problem, it's solving a company problem. Because if you look at it, the legal department needs to weigh in on every single critical decision that the entire company makes. If you want to launch a new product, legal has to review that for compliance. If you want to go into a new market and you want to hire people in different countries, legal has to be involved. And so if you can speed up the legal department and focus their time on really what matters, you're helping the company to actually drive way more revenue, right? Or create way more efficiencies. So this is a problem for the entire C-suite to solve. And Zach, can I just add one more thing here? Because we are really excited about this. About 20% of our users are not actually on the legal team. So we're actually seeing very meaningful expansion outside the legal department, because once the GC uses our product, she also, just through how Streamline is structured, she's using Streamline to also interact with all these other departments. And if you look at back office functions like accounting, right, like HR, like compliance, they don't have an intake system. They're dealing with the same pain points that legal is dealing with: a lack of visibility into what's going on, manual workflows. You can use Streamline to create efficiencies.
Yeah, and look, we look at this stuff and say, we look at legal software and say all the all the source data, the truth data, it all comes from like the legal agreement. So like if you're involved in that process, in theory, there are so many downstream applications for that. And why doesn't all enterprise software start with legal software in some way? What about, I get pushing out to different departments, but I guess like, I guess by default, you're interacting with Slack and all the things that the sales team would use. And like, so you can really go to every user in an organization.
That's exactly right. And that focus on sales, our customers are also exploring deal desk use cases as well, because we integrate with Salesforce, right? So, and if you think about a deal desk function, so much of that can actually be rules driven. If then statements, if a deal is this size and these exceptions are true, then I want this approval to go to this person on the finance team. You can use a system to really automate a lot of that work as well. I want to. Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
I
Go,
wanted
please.
to also ask a question back to you,
Yeah.
Zach, because the LegalTech Fund did invest in Streamline. Like, what grabbed your interest from the get go? Like, what ultimately drove that decision for you all to invest in us?
Without going too deep into some of this, but like the engagement and the reaction from your customers, like when you see like the thing that because we invested across different stages, from pre-seed really through Series A, the thing that we keep our eye out for, or the thing that we're really looking for, is like, does the end user, do people care about this product or not? And you guys had some like off the charts types of numbers when it comes down to like when you implement, what usage looks like, how many people are interacting on the platform. So, that, and then like this whole that was like specifically, but then this whole construct of the corporation just being kind of the last, specifically the legal department within a corporation being like the last untouched area for technology. Like that's the higher level theme. Yes. And then more specifically, the logical place to start is a front door, and you're sitting there as a front door, adding tons of logos and with spectacularly happy customers that are using it all the time. That's usually a pretty good combination.
We're really excited by it too, Zach. In fact, a couple of our latest customers signing up, and it's confidential, so I actually can't share their names yet. But if I talked about them, everybody would know. I mean, they're very, very well known and recently all over the news. And they actually came back to us initially. We were talking, and their use cases were very, very complex. And
Right.
Our approach is, we don't onboard a customer unless we know we can make you 100% fully successful and have you loving it. And you know what? They actually said, Kathy, and also the Streamline team, like, there's nothing else out there that does exactly what you do, and you solve such a critical need. We will modify some of our ways of working, and maybe some of it is too complex for any, but that's exactly what you want to hear, right? From customers who are willing to meet you halfway and say, hey, this is a partnership, and we need your product so much. And we're going to do a lot of the heavy lifting as well, just in order for this to be fully successful. So this is an exciting time.
That's almost like the definition of product market fit. It's like, it's okay if your product is not perfect because there's such a pain point. They need you.
That's exactly right.
And I guess on that, when you talk about other organizations, like for all your stuff has to go through IT. You have heavy security needs, heavy, a lot of the stuff that's being interacted with is kind of confidential and important. And is that stuff you're just like immediately going back to customers and saying, hey, here's all the things we do? Like, is that a pain point obviously it's a pain point in the process, but I'm curious how like the interaction with IT for a system that can be so transformative to a company.
Yeah, absolutely. So you already heard, I've been a practicing attorney. My co-founder spent a big chunk of his career at Google. So both of us knew that just the critical importance of data security. We engineered the product for that starting from day one. Yeah. So even though, we're relatively, right, still a smaller company. We're SOC 2 type 2 compliant. We're not small or inexperienced.
Already. Yeah. No, that's pretty awesome.
Right. When it comes to data security, we work with public companies. We work with many highly regulated companies, especially in healthcare, health tech, fintech. And so you can imagine they have very stringent requirements when it comes to sensitive legal data. We've not lost a single customer ever. And in fact, I just got a ping this morning, right? Like another, regulated company, their IT departments are very, very happy with how everything's been set up. So yeah, it's not been a pain point.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to ask a self-serving question for myself, and then I'm going to give you one in a second.
Okay.
Well, maybe depending on how you react. You were at the summit last year. What was the experience like? And was it helpful?
It's phenomenal. So I've been going to these, ever since the very first one. Every single time I make at least one, but many times, many more, truly, truly meaningful, game-changing relationship when I'm there. So this past one, we connected with an angel investor who is probably one of the most prolific angel investors in the entire country. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Yep. So we've been trying to connect with her actually for probably a couple of years, ever since we first started, because she also used to be a former attorney at Facebook, one of the earliest. And no surprises. Every single fund is knocking on her door asking her to be an LP. So we never got the meeting, but she saw us pitch. She actually saw us winning, being that highest rated startup in our category. And she asked me for a meeting.
Yes.
And now she's an investor. So, the
That's
rest
awesome.
is history, but it's just a phenomenal. I cannot recommend it highly enough to other founders out there.
She's spectacular. I know exactly what you're talking about. And back to you. Look, I can't see who's listening now, but I'm sure there's folks listening now. And then we've seen the last two getting viewed thousands and thousands of times after we posted them. What can this, what can you ask of the audience, or how can the audience be helpful to you?
Yeah. So if the audience, is connected with any GC especially at a quickly growing company, it doesn't have to be tech. We have lots of customers are actually outside of tech as well now. But where you feel like, Streamline could be of benefit to that legal department, to shine a light into the legal black box. That's what we like to say. Please, send us an intro. And if you're just curious and you want to find out more, reach out to me. I'm always happy to chat.
Wait, say that one more time, because you cut out for me for a second. To shine a light in the legal.
Shine a light into the legal black box, because there's no visibility for legal departments into the work that's happening, right? Even for them. So
can I borrow that line as we describe that whole corporate challenge with legal? And then how do people get in touch with you? Can they find you on LinkedIn, or what's the best way?
Yes. Kathy Zhu, Streamline AI on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Email is kathy@streamline.ai.
Well, I can't thank you enough for spending a few minutes with us. And it's great to see you as always. And now we may have to talk meditation afterwards, because every time I see you, you're so happy and positive.
Always. That's my favorite thing to chat about. It's always a pleasure, Zach. So great to see you, and
Awesome.
have a wonderful day.
You as well.
Bye.